Yo, what is up guys? If you're feeling stuck in Fortnite, whether this just be that you're losing fights, missing shots, or not improving fast enough, this video is the perfect place for you. Most players in Chapter 6 Season 4 are wasting their time doing the wrong things, but today I'm going to break down exactly how you can go from being a beginner or amateur player to becoming a dominant pro player very fast, step by step. There's going to be no fluff, no gimmicks, just the real way to improve as fast as possible, so make sure that you stick around because at the end of today's video I'm going to reveal one secret pro tip that could instantly boost your gameplay and make you improve very fast. So if you do find this video helpful, please do drop a like and subscribe as I'm trying to hit 50,000 subscribers before my birthday next year. Let's get on into today's video. Now just a quick note on how this video is formatted. There's going to be 7 key parts, and to move on from one part you should first master the skills involved in the previous. So for example, in the beginner section of each part there's going to be 3 main things which you should master before then moving on to the intermediate skills which you can then try and master, and so on to the pro section. Hopefully that makes sense. Let's get straight into the first point. So starting off, I want to talk about mastering the fundamentals. Now if you're a beginner, you want to make sure that you have mastered 3 key things. The first of these being basic movement, so this could be learning when to jump, crouch and use the correct feature each time within a fight, for example. The second of these you want to learn is crosshair placement, so always keeping it at head level on your opponent and using pre-aimed angles to ensure massive damage shots, especially with a sentinel pump in this season. And thirdly, you want to make sure that you have a consistent drop spot. Again, I have got a drop spots video on my channel if you want to check that out from a few days ago, where you learn the rotations out of every single drop so you can use this every single game. Now each of these skills can come together to complete the beginner section, where you can then move on to learning and starting to learn the intermediate skills. Now the first of the intermediate skills for mastering your fundamentals is going to be trying to improve your box fighting through using box fighting drills. Now these can be practiced in creative in a regular box fighting map, for example, or in a generic piece control map like Piece Control 101. Next up, we want to learn how to master our right hand peeks, because this reduces the risk when shooting in a fight, as you're less likely to take damage back if you use a smart right hand peek. That's because you're hidden behind a wall. Most often it's harder for your opponent to get damage back. Lastly, you can learn a hot drop in either public or ranked matches, because this will allow you faster improvement under pressure, because landing at a hot drop location there's always going to be lots of opponents, so you need to be efficient off spawn. Once you've mastered all of these 6 tips from the intermediate and beginner section, you can finally move on to learning pro level skills. Just a quick side note, if you are looking to improve fast, find other players and become a part of my community, the Discord link to my Discord is in the description down below. I would really appreciate if you could join up. Anyway, now moving on to the fundamentals pro section. At this level, the key is just being efficient. So the first tip, for example, is going to be minimizing your wasted movement. Now this could be to look into stop overbuilding and only move with intent, as this allows you to be more efficient when using your materials, which could come useful at the end of the season when the solo series cup games come around. Next up, you can look to start learning to use pre-edit strategies, especially in endgame. Now this could be used in the trio div cups over the following weeks, or the duo div cups and reload cups that are coming towards the next month or so, because this will allow you to set up unpredictable plays onto your opponent, which can then catch them off guard, allowing you to get a free refresh, giving you the loot that you need. Lastly, you want to learn to try and perfect the skill of movement-based aim. Now this could be something as simple as just strafing while shooting, because it makes it a lot harder to be hit back, reducing the amount of damage that opponents are able to get onto you. Let's move away from the pro section. So the next part of today's video is all going to be focused around aim and learning to aim train the correct way. This is because having good aim can really help you improve at the game very quickly. So if you are a beginner trying to improve your aim, here is a few key tips that I would give you. The first one is to stop relying on lucky big damage shots or one pumps to get you out of fights or certain situations. You want to make sure that you're using aim trainers like Kovacs or Aim Labs to consistently improve your aim, and with these aim trainers like the ones I've just mentioned, you can start with just static targets and static drills, so you can perfect your crosshair discipline before then trying to move on to more advanced drills that might require shots like flicking, for example, which can take a bit more skill to learn. Let's move on to the intermediate stage. For the intermediate stage, I'd recommend using aim practice maps that are available, like Raiders V5 practice map in creative, as this allows you to practice in-game and actual in Fortnite aim training. You can use his tracking drills and his flick training drills, for example, in order to switch through the target smoothly and make sure that you're not overshooting and being most efficient with your aim when you are firing your gun. Now let's move on to the pro section for aim training. Now the correct and first only tip that I want to tell you about aim when you're looking at a pro level skill is just about focusing on micro adjustments. Now this could be something as simple as just adjusting your DPI or a little bit of your sensitivity that allows you to have slight more control over your movements, really increasing your pinpoint accuracy. As practicing this and really getting your aim correct in those micro adjustments will allow you to hit those max damage shots to finish off a fight, which normally might have just been a body foot, for example, when you would have gone down. I'd like you to pause this video and go and load up an aim trainer and play at the same time whilst watching the remainder of this video, so you're working on your aim whilst also learning to improve as fast as possible. Next up, I'm going to talk about the part of editing and building efficiency. So when you're a beginner trying to improve your editing and building, the first thing I'd recommend is that you just try and master the basics, such as just simple window tile edits, for example, as these are actually really effective in a fight, and as long as you use them with the right hand peak, can actually be really effective at getting a kill without taking damage back. If you are a beginner, you also want to learn how to reset edits pretty quickly, so learn your edit binds and make sure that you can confirm the speed and make sure it's as fast as possible. You could use scroll or reset if you're on keyboard and mouse, as this allows you to reset your builds quicker, which is really useful in a fight. As for moving on to the intermediate skills, the first of these is learning how to chain edits together, like triple edits and quad edits. Now, it's important to note that these aren't really useful in a fight in Chapter 6 Season 4, but they are really good practice at speeding up your edit speed and consistency, so therefore when it comes to a fight, you can hit edits more often and make less failed edits. You also want to try and learn some piece control drills, as this could be learning like how to pre-box opponents from either side, for example. I did show this in my previous video, as over 90% of opponents will always go out to their left-hand side, so you're right if you're facing their box. But then implementing these scenarios that you do learn, for example, inside a real game, could just help you close out a fight that little bit quicker. As for the pro level skills, you could look to start learning fake edits and edit baiting, now in order to throw off your enemies. I know Peterbot uses this and does this a lot, so it's really worthwhile trying to learn this, as it allows you to level up your fighting and stay unpredictable. You should also look to master some tunneling and high ground retakes, allowing you for high level fights. Again, I do have a video on my channel from a few months ago with 20 build moves, which includes some really good high ground retakes, so maybe consider checking that out after this one. Let's move on to part 4 of today's video. Now, I had originally planned for part 4 to be about becoming a better fighter and improving your fighting, but I've literally just dropped a banging video on this, which you guys are clearly really liking, so I'm just going to push you in the direction of watching that video. It'll be in the description and on the end screen of today's video, so just give that a watch if you're trying to improve your fighting after this video. Now let's move on to step 5. Now this is going to be about stepping away from mechanics, editing, aim, all of that, and actually just improving your game sense and rotations. Now coming to the end of this season, there is going to be solo series cups, and I will be covering lots of insane strategies that players are using on my channel to place well, so make sure you are subscribed very soon for when they come around. Anyway, moving on to your beginner skills when trying to improve your game sense, it should just be starting off with landing at the same POI every single game and learning your loot rates out of there to help build consistency up within your game. You also want to learn to make smart fights only and avoid unnecessary fights, especially in the early and mid game section, as surviving and making it to the end game is most important within a solo cup, for example, or just a ranked game if you're trying to perform well. As for the intermediate stage, the first of these is having a storm surge plan. Now there are of course the new DMRs in this season, so it's important to know exactly where to position yourself in the mid game in order to get storm surge, as this is valid for not only the solo series cups that are coming, but also the trios and duos div cups that are also coming throughout this season. So you need to make sure that you have a plan in mind, even if it is just a plan in case storm surge does end up popping up, because then it could become a problem, for example, in your tournament games. You also want to learn how to identify which side in a zone is dead side and which one is the more congested side, as by doing the correct rotation to dead side, you should avoid high traffic areas with lots of players, as once you're on dead side, it then decreases the chance of you getting into a mid game fight, allowing you to potentially make it to end game much easier. As for pro level game skills, you want to learn how to use natural cover and terrain to your advantage. Now we did see this in previous seasons if you watch FNCS, when Peterbot used that massive hill at the right of Crime City in order to get storm surge damage and position himself above everyone else in the lobby. Now this is again just how he's used terrain to his advantage, so wherever you're landing this season, please have a look what is around your drop spot and whether there is, for example, a hill with a pad on it that you could base up on top and then use the pad to rotate away if zone doesn't pull to you. It's just smarter plans in mind like this that allow you to get the edge over the other players in the lobby. You could also try and outsmart your opponent by having a smart plan in mind, like leaving edits open outside of your box, so whilst you're still covered, of course, like in a cone, so players behind you think that you've already left, so when they rotate over your box and in front of them, you can beam them in the back and pick up a free refresh, for example. So now moving on to the final part of today's video, it's going to be about improving your mentality in Chapter 6 Season 4. Now I know that there is going to be solo series cups coming at the end of this season, as I've mentioned multiple times throughout this video. So if you're starting off as a beginner trying to improve your mentality, you want to make sure that you're not tilting and you want to make sure that you're not raging. So say you have a bad game in these solo series cups, for example, or just a game of ranked, you want to try and mentally reset after that game so one bad game doesn't end up affecting the rest of the games you play. Now if you are struggling, you can learn to review, for example, one replay per day, particularly a game where you think you should have gone on to do better, for example, like in a solo series cup where you were stacked, had good mats, but you ended up placing in a top 25, for example, instead of placing a top 5. You can identify the key poor position or mistake that you made and then highlight this and write it down so you don't make the mistake again in future games. As for the intermediate section, you want to try and learn to play with better players to force yourself to improve, because if you stick with a friend group, for example, where you are the best player and they're quite behind you in skill, you're not really going to feel as much pressure to improve and therefore might not lead you to improving as fast as you actually could. So make sure that you're avoiding playing the game on autopilot like a solo cash cup or a ranked game, because you're not being pushed by the players you're playing with. If you do need to find high skill players that really do want to play with you, then check out my Discord link in the description down below, as creating a good friend group that are really good and motivated to grind will push you onto being a better player and could eventually lead to you going pro. Now, just as a little bonus tip at the end of today's video, I want to talk about the importance of doing deliberate practice instead of just playing mindlessly for hours every day. You want to make sure that you're not just practicing mindlessly every day and that every session when you load on should have a goal, so you should look to achieve that goal every time, or at least get one step closer to the overall goal before you come offline. You want to make sure that all of you are warming up properly every time you come online, whether this just be something as simple as 10 minutes of aim, building and editing, and 10 minutes of fighting practice, to make sure that you practice every aspect of your gameplay before loading into your first game, so the moment you do load into that first ranked game, you're locked in and ready to see how you're progressing every single day depending on your performance. Thank you for watching. Feel free to click this video on screen to learn how to become a better fighter this season. Subscribe for more. Peace out from me.